Last night, it was Skip Schumacher who sent him home happy from Great American Ballpark with a pinch-hit walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth to give the Reds a 2-1 win over Colorado to snap a 9-game losing streak. This afternoon from the Queen City, it's the rubber game between the Rockies and the Reds, and it's coming up next exclusively on MLB.tv. Welcome to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio, the site of the 2015 All-Star Game. The Cincinnati Reds enter play with a mark of 19-26, while the Rockies own a record of 18-26, as the two clubs lock horns in the rubber game of a 3-game set. Following their first victory in 10 games last night, Brian Price and the Reds look to stay on the winning side this afternoon. But Walt Weiss and his Rockies will try to depart Ohio by taking 2 of 3 games in the series.
Blackman will lead off. He'll play center field. Batting second in left field, Rafael Inoa. Hitting third, Carlos Gonzalez in right. The cleanup batter is shortstop Troy Tulowitzki. Batting number 5 at third base, Nolan Arenado. Hitting 6 at first base, Ben Paulson. Michael McHenry making his first appearance in the series. He'll catch and bat number 7. DJ LeMahieu will be at second base batting 8th, and pitching and batting 9th will be right-hander Kyle Kendrick. For the Reds, Skip Schumacher will lead off, and he'll be at second base. Joey Votto will play first base, batting in the 2-hole. Todd Frazier hits third. He'll be at third base, batting 4th in right field, Jay Bruce. The number 5 batter is Marlon Byrd, the left fielder. Zach Cozart, the shortstop, will bat number 6. The catcher, Tucker Barnhart, bats 7. Pitcher Mike Leake will bat 8. And in center field, batting 9th, will be Billy Hamilton. The Reds are on the field. The Rocks won the opener. The Reds won last night. And as I mentioned, Mike Leake's, Jeff Brantley's got some demons he's trying to put aside, and that's the last 2 starts. He's had a tough time getting anybody out.
Yeah, I think when you look at Mike's last 5 starts, the phrase Jekyll and Hyde comes to mind, because he had 3 starts in a row at the end of April, the beginning of May, where pitched 22 innings, gave up 1 earned run. I thought he threw the ball as good as I've ever seen him throw. And then turn around, as you mentioned, in these last 2 starts, not even looking at the same guy. And you have to hope that Mike will be able to find that form back today, because this is a pretty good lineup the Rockies run out there.
Charlie Blackmon will lead things off. Our first pitch, as always, brought to you by Belterra Park Gaming. One amazing place to play. Blackmon, a .262 batter. He's homered 6 times, 17 RBIs, and proved in the opening game 2 nights ago he can steal a base. He had a career-high 3 in that Rockies win. Here's a pitch by Leake. It's taken for a ball, and this game is underway. 78 degrees and climbing here in downtown Cincinnati. The 1-0 delivery, a roller hit his foot and then kicks out to Leake on the first base side of the mound, and count evens at 1 ball, 1 strike. Reds go into play today some 7 under 500 at 19-26. The Rockies, after last night's loss, are 8 under at 18-26. Leake with a windup, and the 1-1 on the way, and Blackmon lifts it out of play. Off to the left of the plate with the count going to 1 ball and 2 strikes. Defensively, Joey Votto at first base, Skip Schumacher at second, Todd Frazier at third, Zach Cozart at shortstop, Billy Hamilton in center. To his right and left, Marlon Byrd. To his left and right field is Jay Bruce. Tucker Barnhart behind the plate and hanging aside. Leake with a 1-2 count and pitching to Blackmon, and just missed away and a bit high to even the count up. Rafael Inoa waiting in the on-deck circle, and Carlos Gonzalez waiting in the wings. Leake studies Barnhart. Too much time to suit Charlie Blackmon, and he backs away from the plate. Reds will be staying home, and after an off day tomorrow, have the Nationals coming into town tomorrow night. There's Friday night. And there's ball 3, and the count is full on Charlie Blackmon. Yeah, League 2 starts ago gave up a career high 9 runs, all earned, in a loss to the San Francisco Giants. Here's a foul ball, and Blackmon continues to battle. He worked 5 innings in that game, a game in which he lost 11-2, and then came right back against the Indians up in Cleveland. And in 4 innings allowed 7 hits and 5 runs, and was a loser in that game 7-3. And now he has walked the leadoff batter. As he misses upstairs, Blackmon pitches the bat aside and heads on to first. And here's a left fielder, Rafael Ynoa. If you're listening on your car or truck radio, please remember to buckle your safety belt. This message brought to you by the Ohio Department of Public Safety. If you're not buckled up, what's holding you back? First start in the series for Ynoa. A switch hitter batting left-handed. He has been a pinch hitter in the 2 previous games. Let's see how Walt Weiss plays it. No signs of bunting, even though Frazier was drawn in on the grass at third base. And it's ball 1. Calling balls and strikes, Acrucci. Tim Welke at first, Mike Everett, Tim Timmons at second, and Todd Tishner over at third. Blackmon with 10 steals in 12 attempts, and gets a good lead almost without exception every time. And there he goes, and the pitch is hit hard but foul past third base coach Stu Cole. 1 ball and 1 strike.
That almost looked like a hit and run as Blackmon broke for second base. He looked back in to the hitter Ynoa. Normally when you look back in, that designates hit and run. If you're looking only at second base, that's a straight steal.
The count is even at 1 ball and 1 strike. A quick throw over and Blackmon back. The outfield is straight away. The infield a double play depth, and Frazier, who had been in on the grass, now backing up to play about even up with the bag at third base. Leake holding with a high set, and he pitches, and Ynoa fouls it off. Got a bit of a breeze blowing out toward left. And I can speak, I think, for everybody in the Reds traveling party that after going into Kansas City and Cleveland, they are thrilled to death to be back and playing under baseball weather conditions. And that is exactly what we have here, and probably will have it throughout the remainder of the week. The pitch swung on, fly ball, left center, coming hard is Hamilton, and he'll run it down. Ball hung up long enough for Billy to get to it. Marlon Byrd deferred to the speedy center fielder, and now with 1 out, here's Carlos Gonzalez.
Billy Hamilton caught that ball in left field over right in front of Marlon Byrd.
Gonzalez batting a very un-Carlos Gonzalez-like .201, 4 home runs and 13 runs batted in. He'll be followed in the batting order by the shortstop Troy Tulowitzki. Blackmon led the game off with a walk, and now Ynoa flies out, and now here's Gonzalez. Quick throw to first, back again. Corson Fire and Security is a proud sponsor of the Cincinnati Reds. It's also your local fire and security provider. Visit Corson.com to learn more. Leake turning it loose, and Gonzalez takes it under the knees. Ball 1. Gonzalez staying right in that batter's box, levels the bat a couple of times. Blackmon leading. Leake concerned about him. Here's a hold and the pitch, and that one is fouled out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. That win last night by the Reds gets him back to that of a .500 team at home. And obviously, if this club is going to right this ship and become something of an impact player in this division, they're going to have to do a heck of a lot better than that from here on out. They're 10 up and 10 down, and on the road an abysmal 9-16. The pitch swinging and a roller foul at first. Of course, when you lose 5 straight on the road, as they did last week, 2 in Kansas City and 3 in Cleveland,
tends to skew that record a little bit.
Without any doubt. Of course, after this homestand, they hit the road again, albeit for only 3. They travel next Monday afternoon on an off day to Philadelphia, where they'll play the Phillies Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, then come right back home and play the Padres and the Phillies on the next homestand. So more home than road coming up. Swinging, ground ball up the middle, and that's a base hit into center field. Leake reached for it, but it was by him, and it was hit hard enough to elude both Schumacher and Cozart. So just like that, 1 out deep into this one, the Rockies are threatening against Mike Leake, and here's the shortstop, Troy Tulowitzki.
Like Leake was trying to cut that ball in on Gonzalez as he did on the previous pitch. He just didn't get it in there.
Tulowitzki checks in today at 272. He has homered but 2 times so far this season while driving in 18 runs. He started last night's game and had a single and 4 times up after only pinch hitting on the opener. The runner goes to throw down to third and out. What a catch by Todd Frazier, standing right at the bag, and here comes the runner, Blackmon. And I mean, Tucker Barnhart put that baby right on the money. Anything less than that, and they've got a double steal. And Barnhart rises to the occasion, and Todd Frazier made a tough catch in a difficult situation.
Well, Mike Leake never made Charlie Blackmon stop at second base, and that's the one thing you have to do as a pitcher. Make the base runner stop as he starts to take that lead. He had a walking lead. It turned into a running lead, and he almost made it.
So a big defensive play by the young man behind the plate from Brownsburg, Indiana. And now with the runner at second, the 1-0 pitch coming to Tulowitzki, and that one is taken low, and it's 2 balls and no strikes.
So Marty, we've not seen the Rockies run like this in years past. They've always played for the long ball, the big inning, if you will. But without the big power home run numbers in the middle of this lineup, I think Walt Weiss is trying to do anything he can to get runs on the board.
Here's the 2-0 pitch. Leake badly in need of a strike and got it to the taking Tulowitzki. 2-1. Well, even with what we've seen out of them in this series, they've still only stolen 20 bases all year long.
Yeah, they've gotten thrown out a lot.
Yeah, that's the 17th time they've been thrown out stealing. So to call this is certainly not a running team, but much more so in this series than apparently they've been in any other series leading up to this one. 3-1 now on Tulowitzki. Leake trying to get out of the first inning unscathed. Big defensive play for the second out. And now the check of the runner in the pitch, and that's taken, and that's ball 4, and that's his second walk of the inning. And this has been a problem for Mike Leake, and it's rearing its ugly head here in the first inning today.
Well, when things go rough for you on the mound, you start to try to get out to the outer edges of the plate, trying to make perfect pitches. I don't care how good you are. When things aren't going good, perfect pitches, they're tough to make. You got to stay down, get the ball over the plate, pitch to contact.
Well, you got a tough out to deal with right now. And third baseman Nolan Arenado, a 281 batter who leads the club in home runs with 9 and in RBIs with 28. So again, they've got a couple of runners on base, and Arenado takes a strike. They pretty much play him straight up. He's a right-hand batter. Gonzalez at second, Tulowitzki at first. The pitch, and that one a nice stop on a pitch down and away that Barnhart digs out of the dirt. They'll pitch that ball out of play, and the count's 1 ball and 1 strike. We're at the top of inning number 1. Final game of this series between the Reds and the Rockies. Reds will be traveling out to Denver later on in the year. League back with a 1-1, and that's inside, ball 2. Arenado had an outstanding year last year. He batted .287 with 18 homers and 61 runs batted in. Last year could be categorized as a coming out year for him. Here's a high fly ball hit back into deep left field, and it is 3-0 in favor of Colorado. He jumped on a 2-1 pitch, and it wasn't any question about where it was going to end up. So the 2-out walk to Tulowitzki burns Mike Leake badly as Arenado goes deep for the 10th time this season, and the Rockies are on the board and lead by 3. That, by the way, is the 11th home run that Leake has given up this season. He can go to work now on first baseman Ben Paulson, who bats him left-handed. And that's a foul out of play, 0-1.
You know, it seems, Marty, when you're on the mound, the more you worry about not giving up the home run, the more mistakes you make, and then you give up the home run.
He gave up a no-doubter right there. That one is hit foul, 0-2. Paulson, in the time he has been up, has been a plus factor offensively, hitting .333. The kick and the pitch, and that's a Tapper foul. The Reds, if they're going to win back-to-back games, they're going to have to play comeback baseball today when Kyle Kendrick takes the mound with a lead. Rough start for right-hander Mike Leake. Pitch inside. It's a ball and 2 strikes. And a swing and a miss, and the inning is over. But from Leake's perspective, 1 batter too late. We head to the bottom of inning number 1. The Rockies 3. The Reds are coming to bat on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. The Nationals in the aforementioned 3-game series Friday, Saturday, Sunday, presented by KOI Auto Parts. Don't miss a weekend full of fireworks, giveaways, and more. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. Here's Skip Schumacher. Here's Kyle Kendrick. And it's a taken strike on the inside. Kendrick, 30 years old, born in Houston, Texas. And up until the Rockies signed him as a free agent in February, he spent his entire career in the Philadelphia Phillies organization. Quickly in front, no balls and 2 strikes against the Reds. He's 3-4 lifetime in 10 appearances and 9 starts. He has Schumacher in a hole, and Skip takes that when it bounces up there. He has lost 2 out of 3 decisions here at Great American Ballpark. And in fact, the last time he has won a game against the Reds was in June of 2008 when he beat them at Citi Field in Philadelphia.
He was the Rockies opening day starter. That is his lone win of the year.
He pitches, and that is sharply hit, but at the shortstop. Tulowitzki lets fire, and there's 1 out. We'll bring up Joey Votto. Today's tweet of the game is brought to you by AT&T. AT&T offers or covers 97% of all Americans, mobilizing your world. Today's tweet comes from Brandon Bowman. Pete Bowman at Reds.com. No, that was, he sent the tweet, and it came from Kylie at Redhead Kentucky 23. I didn't know they had Redheads in Kentucky. Votto steps out of the box. Little man Emmett is at his first Reds ball game today. Little man Emmett Cantrell.
Solid.
That is a big day for this young man. Here's a pitch to Votto, and it's a swing and a roller fair behind the bag at first. Gloved by Paulson to the bag, and they're 2 out. So we welcome Emmett Cantrell and all the first timers who are here and watching a big league baseball game for the very first time. That is a memory that if you're old enough to remember the first time you went, it'll stay with you for a lifetime.
Especially if your first game you played in it. Yes.
2 out, 2 down, and here's Todd Frazier. 253 batter, second in the league with 13 home runs. He shows bunt and takes a pitch up and in, ball 1. Kendrick working with a 3-0 lead as a result of a 2-out 3-run homer by Nolan Arenado at the top of the inning. The pitch, and that is very high in the air, down the left field line, racing over the left fielder, and that ball is foul, and I mean by not much. In fact, that ball settled into the very first row of seats. There are a group of folks sitting down there, and the one farthest to the right, as we look at it, could reach over and touch the foul pole. That's how close that ball was down the line. In fact, Frazier, as the ball took off from the bat, just stood there and all of a sudden realized, hey, this might be fair. So he started running, and the ball goes foul.
Foul by a body length.
Yep. 1 ball and 1 strike. Schumacher a ground ball to shortstop. Votto a bounce out to first. And now Frazier back and waiting. Check swing, and not a foul ball, or a ball that just fell off the mid of catcher Michael McHenry. Apparently a strike. And now it's a ball and 2 strikes with Jay Bruce waiting on deck. Sun peeking in and out of the clouds overhead. And when it's out, it is very, very warm. That's in the dirt. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. The line, the kick, and the pitch. Frazier lines it back into deep left center field. That one is fair, and that one is gone. Line drive home run, and Todd Frazier touches them all with his 14th home run of the year. It is a 3-1 game, and this could be one of those days.
We came into today with Mike Leake having given up 10 home runs in 58 2/3 innings. 11 home runs by Kyle Kendrick, now 12 in 53 1/3 inning.
And the first inning is scoring inning for both teams. Now here's Jay Bruce, the hottest hitter on this ball club. And he takes the strike. That Frazier home run marks another donation from United Healthcare to organizations improving children's health in Cincinnati. United Healthcare, the official health and wellness company of the Reds. Now the 0-1. That's down a ball. Bruce batting .225. But over the last 9 games in which he has hit safely in, he has swung the bat at a .441 clip. And before this run of success began, he was hitting at 162. So while the .225 average is nothing to write home about, it is light years ahead of where it was. 2-1 the count. That home run traveled an estimated 394 feet. Tail of the tape brought to you by your Greater Cincinnati Ford dealers. Ford, go further. Pulls it foul past first base coach Billy Hatcher. Jim Riggleman over at third.
The one thing I've noticed about Bruce in this streak of recent success, he's kept the ball out of the air. The high fly balls, everything has either been a line drive or a hard ground ball, and he's starting to get some hits out of it, even with the shift.
Waiting on the 2-2, and the shift is on right now to Bruce's pull side. The pitch coming, and that's hanging up and outside the full count. On deck, Marlon Byrd. Kendrick sights a sign from Michael McHenry and pitches, and he struck him out swinging, breaking ball down and away to end the inning. And at the end of 1, Reds trail the Rocks 3-1 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. We're in the top of the second. 3-1 Colorado. Michael McHenry, the catcher. First pitch, ball 1 from Leake. He'll be followed by DJ LeMahieu and the pitcher Kendrick. And that one is at the knees for a strike as we welcome in our good friend, and we hope yours, one of the prime citizens of the west side of Cincinnati and a proud graduate, yes, folks, if you're from there, of Elder High School. They would tell you that Western Hills and Oak Hills don't even exist. That would be John Phil.
Beautiful introduction, Marty. I appreciate that.
And you probably concurred with everything I said.
If I was listening, I would have.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. And that's a bouncing ball, and that's a foul ball right at the bag. Call finally rendered by Todd Tishner as Frazier picked it up and turned it loose. Johnny Cueto had I guess, for want of a better term, went out and played some catch today, and you talked to him afterwards.
Yeah, he threw from 90 feet. wasn't a light session. He was throwing it pretty hard, and he said he felt fine. And I asked him if he thought he could start Sunday, and he said, I think I can. He said maybe. You know, I think the big thing all the time is now how does he feel tomorrow. They've got that slot open, and Brian Price also said it's a possibility. So it may work out that way.
Here's a 1-2 pitch, and it's fouled off. Yeah, you mentioned the rotation over the weekend. They've got Friday and Saturday set, but Sunday's wide open, and Brian certainly didn't talk around the possibility that Cueto would pitch. Yeah,
I guess Jason Marquis would be the other choice.
Actually, I think the other choice would be Michael Lorenzen, because he pitched last night, Tuesday, and that's 5 days.
Thursday off.
Yeah.
Well, but the other thing with those younger guys, they're trying to limit their innings, so.
Yeah, but I think they'll figure out a way to limit his innings later, because I think if Cueto can't pitch, I think Lorenzen will pitch on Sunday. Here's a pitch, and that's a ball up, all even at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Brandon Phillips just getting another day, right?
Yeah, he was off last night, with the off today, and then the Reds are off tomorrow, so that would give him 3 days. I think he's available to pinch hit or do things like that, but you know, Brian just said they want to calm it down so it's not a lingering kind of nagging injury.
3-2 pitch to McHenry, and that's a fly ball hit back into right field. Bruce is at the wall, and he made the catch.
That's a great play.
What a play by Jay Bruce in right field. A ball that was hit dead over his head and got on top of him right now. He went back to the track. He reached up less than a step away from the wall and made the catch. Heck of a play by a heck of a right fielder.
1 foot on the wall and a snag.
Wow. No chance of going out. That ball would have been off the wall, but he does not hesitate whatsoever. As far as the confrontation with that wall was concerned, he just took extra bases away from McHenry. And here's DJ LeMahieu. Ball 1.
Ball's carrying a little bit today.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we got a chance to see a whole bunch of balls flying out there today. LeMahieu taking a strike. He's 5th best in the National League with a .331 batting average. And the pitch, and that's fouled straight back, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. What else, John? You're full of you know what.
Yeah. We talked to Brian about whether he likes Billy Hamilton in the 9th spot. It's been a pretty small sample. I think you're going to see him there for a while. He likes the idea that it takes the pressure off the kid a little bit. And
what does Billy say about it?
I think at the time they moved him down, we talked to him. When you're struggling as bad as he was, you really can't complain.
Not much.
And he seems to have come on a little bit lately. The big thing Brian says, he wants his glove in center field. He's had a terrific year in the outfield.
Line foul and out of play, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. It certainly has not kept him from playing center field about as good as anybody else in this league, with all due respect to some of the good ones.
Yeah, he just goes and gets balls that you don't think he has a chance for when they leave the bat.
Leake working ahead of the count here against LeMahieu, and now he tries to spot it over on the outside corner and didn't get it, and the count's 2-2. Ground ball into right field, a base hit. So LeMahieu extends his hitting streak to 10 games on his first at bat of the afternoon. That's hit number 3 for the Rockies, and now the pitcher Kyle Kendrick will stand in, first checking things out with third base coach Stu Cole. No doubt we'll be trying to get a bunt down. Are the Reds in the next few days, do you think, going to add another position player?
I would think, particularly if Brandon Phillips continues to have to miss time with that foot. They basically played with a 3-man bench last night. Oddly enough, a bench player won it, but yeah, they're in a tough situation because they also need that extra bullpen arm because they have all these rookies in the rotation. We saw the other day when Iglesias only went 3 innings, so it's a hard call.
Yeah. Kendrick up there obviously trying to move LeMahieu into scoring position for Charlie Blackmon. Charging is Frazier, and the ball is butted foul, and it's 0-2. Well, they added Manny Parr when they disabled Devin Mesoraco.
Right.
So an additional arm in the bullpen. But I mean, I cannot imagine that they would continue to play one short on that bench. It just, I mean, as badly, and I understand the situation they find themselves in from a pitching perspective. I mean, I can't imagine this going for a length of time, and you only have 3 extra people on the bench. Swing and a miss. That's a strikeout at Kendrick.
Yeah, and I mean, they have very little power on the bench. You would think. I don't know that they have, the guy that's playing the best at Louisville is Ivan DeJesus, but he's a middle infielder, and how much time is he going to get there? So, you know, there's always guys popping up that are getting designated or whatever. So maybe they look outside the organization.
Here's Blackmon back for an encore after he opened the game with a base on balls. It's a 3-1 game, Colorado, in the top of the second. Call strike. The irony of this whole thing is, and I think back to spring training when all we talked about was this club is going to have power coming off the bench. Brennan Bosch from the right side, Kristen Dominguez from the left side. Well, guess what?
It really, I mean, what's happened with Brennan Bosch is almost exactly what happened with Roger Bernardino last year. They hit well in spring training when they're playing every day, and when they get up here, it's a whole different thing. And the other thing about guys like that who know they have to make the club,
that's right,
they come in and they're ready to go from day one. So it's a hard thing to judge.
It sure is. 0-2 the count now on Blackmon. Runner at first, E.J. LeMahieu with 2 down in the inning, and time called as the bearded center fielder of the Rockies steps out of the box and now gets back in. Pitch on the way, and that is a high fly ball, lofted into deep right field. Bruce going back, and that's gone. Another Colorado home run. Charlie Blackmon taking Leake out of here to right. His 7th homer of the year, and Colorado's lead now mounts to 5-1. Mike Leake is in a very, very bad place right now. I mean, it's going to be hard enough for this club to get back into a position where they feel like they can at the least contend for a wild card. It's tough enough when you've got 3 rookies in the rotation, but with one of your established guys going dead south like Leake is right now, that would be, to me, almost an impossible situation.
The surprising thing is he started so well. He wasn't good in his first start, but then he got on a really good roll, and now he's just,
it's unbelievable. Here's a looping liner into left that's going to drop for a base hit. So Rafael Noah keeps the inning alive with an opposite field single. And here again is Carlos Gonzalez, who singled sharply into center in the first inning. Think there's going to be a time when John Moscott gets called up here?
I think so. I just looked at his numbers today. He's 6-1 with a 3.35 ERA and 8 starts. He was a guy that Brian Price talked about from day one in spring training. You know, and they've been non-committal on Jason Marquis' starts.
Yeah.
I honestly think if Johnny Cueto hadn't missed that start, that Marquis might have been out before his last turn. So we'll see. At some point, you got to start looking at the younger guys.
Foul ball, and Gonzalez down 0-1.
Well, every start for Moscott except his last one has been outstanding.
This one is hit straight away center, but Hamilton tracking it as he backs a few steps to put it away and end the inning. John, we'll see you over the weekend, maybe?
You will.
All right, pal.
Thanks, Marty.
That's John Fay from the Cincinnati Enquirer. We go to the bottom of the second. Reds trailing early 5-1 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. 4 as we move to the home second, where Marlon Byrd will stand in for the first time today, hitting off Kyle Kendrick, who gave up a solo home run to Todd Frazier in the first, already with 3 home runs hit, and we're only in the bottom of inning number 2. Byrd takes a strike. Second on the club in home runs. He has 10 of them and has had a rather impressive month of May. 8 homers, 17 RBIs to right up among the leaders in the month of May throughout the National League. The 0-1 pitch, and that's a ball in the dirt. Cozart on deck to be followed by Tucker Barnhart. 1-1 on Byrd, a .213 batter with 25 runs knocked in. High and tight, ball 2.
These two fellas were teammates last year.
Yes, they were. No question about that in Philadelphia. Hard hit, but it will be caught by the center fielder Gonzalez. 1 out. Time now for our Cincinnati Bell trivia question of the game.
Can't wait.
I've been with bated breath counting the seconds off. Text your answer of A, B, or C to 66128 for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum, a $25 Skyline Chili gift card, and a free haircut from Great Clips. Brought to you by Cincinnati Bell. You entertain. Cozart looks at a strike. Who, Jeff Brantley,
yes, sir,
was the first Rockies pitcher to be named to the All-Star team? 3 names that you're very familiar. One strike delivery. He jams him big time, and he pops it up. And the pitcher calling, and at the last second, Paulson calls him off as he came in toward the plate a few feet off the line on the first base side to make the catch, and they're 2 out. Now Tucker Barnhart. A, Pedro Estacio. B, Sean Estes. C, Mike Hampton. I know who I think it was. Here's Barnhart with 2 out. Ball strike. Estacio, Estes, Hampton. Barnhart, a .250 batter with a couple of home runs. Kendrick trying to retire the Reds in order. Inside, a ball, 1-1.
I think I'm going to go with A, Estacio.
Pedro Estacio. You're sure about that?
No,
not Estes, not Hampton.
That's a straight blind guess.
That is A.
I could have written it down yesterday and been as good.
1 ball and 1 strike. Grounded to the right side. The second baseman of the shortstop makes a play to Tulowitzki and throws on to first, and that ends the inning. So the Reds are up and down in order. Jeff Brantley will have the play-by-play in inning number 3, and the Reds trail early 5-1 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball. Ortiz, Beltre, living legends clash in a Lone Star State showdown when the Boston Red Sox collide in a primetime rumble with the Texas Rangers. MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball, live at 8 Eastern.
Leak takes the mound again. Rockies with a 3-run home run in the first. That came with 2 down. And a 2-run home run in the second. Home runs by Arenado and Charlie Blackmon. And Leak will be facing Tulowitzki, Arenado, and Ben Paulson as we begin this 3rd inning of play. Final game of this 3-game series, Rockies and Reds. And Leak delivers a breaking ball high and deep to center. Hamilton on the run. Back to the track. He got it. Hamilton makes the catch for the first out here in the 3rd. A deep fly ball off the bat of Troy Tulowitzki. It seems like every ball that has gone into the air has had some distance to it. The flags are blowing, but it's not as though they're blowing straight out. Just that kind of day. Here's Arenado. Leak with a fastball up and in. 1 ball and no strikes. Leak working with Tucker Barnhart, which has been the norm as of late. Right-hander turns it loose. Here's a strike over the inside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. Barnhart running through the signs. A long look in by Leak. The turn, the pitch. Breaking ball hangs high. 2 balls and a strike. Leak has had a difficult time either with the cut fastball or the curveball getting in the spot that he desires it to be. And that fastball misses down and away, and it is 3-1. You struggle with a pitch on the mound, really tends to disrupt your rhythm, and rhythm is everything for a pitcher. Fouled straight back as Leak challenges him with a fastball. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Arenado, the big hero in game 1, got the sacrifice fly off of Aroldis Chapman in the top of the 9th inning. Swing and a miss. Good breaking ball down and away. And Arenado comes up empty, 2 down. It appeared Arenado thought that ball was going to come back towards the plate as a 2-seamer would, and it just dove down and away. And the Rocky third baseman swings and misses. Here's Paulson. Takes a breaking ball low. 1 ball and no strikes. Leak working quickly, and a swing and a foul back behind home plate off the bat of Ben Paulson. Paulson has played first base. He's played out in left field, and he swings right through a breaking ball there, and quickly Leak ahead 1-2. Without Justin Morneau available to manager Walt Weiss, we've seen Willie Rosario at first, Paulson, and here's a ground ball to Votto at first. He'll shuffle it onto a covering Leak, and that's a 3-up, 3-down third for the Reds right-hander. 5-1 Rockies lead the Reds as we head to the bottom of 3 here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Get ready for MLB Network's Friday Night Showcase. The Dodgers, behind heavy-hitting Adrian Gonzalez, storm into St. Louis for a clash with Matt Holliday and the Cardinals. Smoltz, Costas, and Verducci will have the call for Dodgers-Cardinals. MLB Network's Friday Night Showcase live at 8 Eastern.
Now Kendrick here in the bottom of the third inning. And Reds fans, if a Reds home run hits the Toyota sign during today's game, Lisa Omer from West Harrison, Indiana, will win this beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. You can register for your chance to win an upcoming game by seeing one of your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Lisa Omer from West Harrison, good luck. Kyle Kendrick working with Michael McHenry, and he bounces the breaking ball to the plate. 1 ball and no strikes to Lee. Lee hitting in the number 8 spot, Hamilton in the number 9 spot, and then back to the top of the order and Skip Schumacher. Leake awaits the 1-0, and it's on the inside corner. A fastball, strike 1. 1 ball and 1 strike here to Leake. Leake, a pretty good hitting pitcher. 150 on the year. He does have a home run. And he grounds this one to the third base side. Arenado scoops it, throws in time. 1 down. So Hamilton will be a 1-out batter. We'll try to get something going for the Reds as they trail 5-1 early. At United Dairy Farmers, you can turn small purchases into big gas savings. So sign up for a U-Drive loyalty card and never pay full price on gas again. That's UDF. Hamilton 2 for 7 here in this series. In that number 9 spot as Kendrick rocks and deals. Ground ball off the glove of Paulson. It rolls towards LeMahieu, and they will not get the speedy Billy Hamilton. Looked like Paulson should have made that catch. Ball was hit sharply. Looked like Paulson stumbled as he went down to catch the baseball. Went underneath his glove. LeMahieu with an excellent effort to try to glove it and underhanded on to the first baseman after the fact. But with Hamilton running, there's no chance.
That's a very liberal scoring decision right there. That first baseman plays that ball.
Well, a little home cooking for one Billy Hamilton. And he'll stand at first base, and now Schumacher stands in. There goes Hamilton. McHenry, the throw, not in time. Hamilton with number 18 on the year.
That's his first stolen base since the 11th of May.
Well, there is no secret that when Hamilton is aboard, he can create a lot of havoc. But the bottom line is you got to get aboard, and hitting at 214 has not been often. Now Schumacher ready. Hamilton off the bag at second. Kendrick with a long look back there. Now he'll pick to second base, and he almost threw that baby into center field. Tulowitzki playing right behind Billy Hamilton as he creeps off the bag at second. There's no secret Hamilton will steal third if he gets any kind of break at all. Now time called behind the plate as McHenry stops the action for a moment. Schumacher steps out, now back in. Kendrick checks Hamilton, really staring back that way. Now the pitch popped up, left field line, moving towards the line is Enoa. He'll make the catch, and there's two down. So now Joey Votto will come to the plate. Two down with a runner in scoring position. Votto grounded to Paulson at first base his first time around. You're down 5-1. These are the types of situations you have to take advantage of, especially with a speedster like Hamilton standing at second. Schumacher pops up. Now it'll be up to Votto in the toughest RBI situation, which comes with 2 down. And a strike over the outside corner. Good sinking fastball from Kyle Kendrick. They give Votto the entire shortstop side of left field. Ground ball, Tulowitzki. He's got it standing at second. He throws out Votto, and that will end the inning. Hamilton gets aboard, steals a base, and is stranded. 5-1 Rockies as we head to the 4th here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. Radio Network. First pitch from Leake to McHenry is a ball as he misses just a bit off the outside corner. Now he gets the strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. McHenry sent Jay Bruce all the way to the wall. As a matter of fact, Bruce had to leap at the wall to make the catch last time up, and he swings right through a breaking ball there. 1 ball and 2 strikes. McHenry has always been a pretty good fastball hitter. We saw him in a Pirates uniform, now in the Rocky uniform. Leake comes to the plate. Breaking ball that bounces up there, evens the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. McHenry back into the box as Leake stares into Barnhart. The pitch jammed on the ground to the shortstop Cozart. He'll throw in time. 1 down. Reds fans, satisfy your taste buds this season with JTM's beef and chicken Philly kits. These kits make 4 delicious sandwiches that the whole family will enjoy. Pick up some today in your grocer's freezer. JTM, let's create great dishes together. So 1 out for Leake, and now DJ LeMahieu. 10-game hitting streak for the Rockies' second baseman, and a fastball misses underneath the hands, sending LeMahieu backwards. LeMahieu throughout this series has tried to shoot the ball up the middle and the other way, and he's already done that 1 time this afternoon. Strike over the inside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike from Leake. One out in the inning. Leake working quickly, almost got him with a fastball up and in. He sends LeMahieu backwards one more time. Came in on the first pitch, got a strike, and came way in right there. That one almost got the jersey of LeMahieu. Foul off to the right side. Now it's 2 balls and 2 strikes from Leake. Kyle Kendrick, the pitcher, waiting in the on-deck circle. 5-1 Rockies lead. Leake has retired 5 in a row. And he misses just a bit off the outside corner. Tried to cut a fastball, and it cut just a tad too far. Now a 3-2 pitch. Leake nods affirmative. The pitch. And it's a ground ball to the right side. Diving is Schumacher. He's going to have to hurry, and he doesn't get it there in time. Schumacher dove for the baseball. It kicked off the heel of the glove back towards the first baseman Votto, and by the time Schumacher scrambled to his feet, he just couldn't quite get the ball to first base in time. LeMahieu hustling all the way. That's the second hit. Both almost in the identical spot for DJ LeMahieu. Now here's Kyle Kendrick. Kendrick appears to be bunting as he squares a quick pick to first, not in time. Charlie Blackmon waiting in the on-deck circle. A 2-run home run in the second. Sure, the Rockies would like to move the runner LeMahieu along with the bunt here. The pitch, and it's bunted foul off to the right side, out of play. Stu Cole, the Rockies' third base coach, runs through the signs for Kendrick as he steps out of the box, staring down that way. Frazier way in at third. Shortstop at second at double play depth. Another foul bunt right behind home plate. You can see the frustration from Kyle Kendrick, but the technique that he's using to bunt, that's not how you teach it. You catch the baseball with the fat end of the bat. You don't stab at it. It's not a shish kebab. No balls and 2 strikes. Leake will throw to first again, sending LeMahieu back. And as much as anything for Leake, he's just trying to keep LeMahieu from getting that extra jump at first base in case Kendrick gets the bunt down. Line drive to third. Frazier is there, and that's going to be the second out of the inning. Boy, the Reds catch a break there because Kendrick hit that baby right on the nose. So 2 down for Charlie Blackmon. He's walked, he's homered. And you have to wonder if Walt Weiss would put LeMahieu in motion here. He's stolen 4 bases, albeit he's been caught 3 times. Leake checks him once. The pitch down and in. 1 ball and no strikes here to Charlie Blackmon. 7 home runs on the year for Blackmon. Put together a great year last year for average as well as power. The pitch. Jam shot up the middle, backhanded by Schumacher. He'll go the short way to Cozart, and that'll be the final out for the Rockies here in the 4th. They lead 5-1 over the Reds as the home team comes to the plate here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Reds fans, the 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot is here. Head to MLB.com/vote to choose this year's stars and help send them to the All-Star Game on July 14th in Cincinnati. Vote early and vote often to put your stamp on the Midsummer Classic.
Bottom of the fourth inning here in Cincinnati. Rockies leading the Reds 5-1 early on the strength of 2 home runs. 3-run homer by Arenado in the first, a 2-run jack by Charlie Blackmon. That came in the second. Reds had a home run of their own, and it came from the man standing at the plate, leading off this fourth inning, Todd Frazier. If the Reds are going to make a move, it would be prime time to do it right here. Line drive down the left field line. That's extra bases. Frazier will round first and roll into second. That's a double, the 8th of the year for Todd Frazier. Frazier swinging on the first pitch, and he barreled it up down the left field line. Now he's aboard for Jay Bruce. At the middle of your order coming to the plate. Frazier doubles, his second hit of the day. Now Jay Bruce, Marlon Byrd waits on deck. Bruce struck out his first time up, but he has been hotter than you can get as of late. Reds need him to stay that way right here. Pops this ball up. Third base side. Arenado appears to have it. He does. 1 down. Kendrick has thrown 2 pitches here in the inning. One a double by Frazier, and that a pop-up into foul territory off the bat of Jay Bruce. Now Marlon Byrd, as we mentioned earlier, former teammate of the man standing on the mound, Kyle Kendrick, in Philadelphia. Byrd scored the 2 runs that the Reds were able to plate last night. The Reds won 2-1. Kendrick turns it loose. Popped up. Second baseman LeMahieu has it. 2 down. 3 pitches in the inning for Kyle Kendrick. Double, pop up, and now it's Zach Kozar. Reds have had a tough time hitting with runners in scoring position, and it just seems to be exacerbated in situations like this. You can almost sense the pressure of the hitter at the plate trying to get that run home from second base. 2 first pitch pop-ups, and Kozar will take a strike right on the outside corner. Kozar 1 for 3 yesterday, hit the ball on a line every time. Had a couple of line outs, 1 to third, 1 to left field. Got the single. He's popped up 1 time here today. Kendrick comes set, staring right at Frazier at second base. The pitch. Hit hard, but right at Arenado, off the glove. The recovery. Oh, what a play by Nolan Arenado. He booted it for a moment. Quick reaction, and then an absolute rocket throw across the diamond to get Kozar. 5-1 Rockies as we head to the 5th and back to the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Heavy hitters.
All the time.
Amazing arms.
All the time.
Clutch catches.
All the time. On MLB Tonight.
Tonight at 6:30 Eastern.
Mike Leake working, and he gets it into the knees for a call strike. He gave up 3 in the first, 2 in the second, all 5 Colorado runs coming on home runs. And then is seemingly settled down. Here's a high chop over the mound near the bag and behind it, and fielding is Cozart. And a quick throw on to Joey Votto, and there's 1 down. Here's Carlos Gonzalez, who has singled and scored and 2 times up. 3-run homer in the first by Nolan Arenado, and then the 2-run bomb to right off the bat of Charlie Blackmon in the second to account for all 5 Colorado runs. The only Reds run coming on a home run by Todd Frazier in the first inning. League pitching, and fastball is down and in, ball 1 as we check scores of other games brought to you by Montgomery Inn. Join the Montgomery Inn crowd in Montgomery, the Boathouse, Fort Mitchell, and in Dublin. The 1-0 coming, and that's off the plate, a ball outside, 2-0. The Cleveland Indians are doing to the Texas Rangers today what the New York Yankees did to the Kansas City Royals 2 days ago, winning 11-1 at the end of 4.5. Ground ball by the diving Frazier into left center field. Reds had the shift on for Gonzalez, and he shot it by third baseman Frazier. And second hit of the game for Carlos Gonzalez, bringing up Troy Tulowitzki. 11-1 Indians over the Rangers. They got 2 in the second and then dropped an 8 spot on them in the bottom of the third. Chisenhall, Swisher, Santana have all hit Texas homer or Cleveland homers. They're in the 5th inning in Pittsburgh, and the Marlins have a 1-0 lead on the hot Pirates. Pittsburgh with a 5-game winning streak, and they have really been playing well because they've been getting sensational starting pitching. Pitch is a strike to Tulowitzki. After 2.5 innings of play in Toronto, the White Sox have a 2-0 lead on the Blue Jays. It's a 1-1 game. Royals at the Yankees. In the top of the third, Moustakas for Kansas City, McCann for New York. 1 strike and nothing to count. And a call, strike 2, and Tulowitzki did not like that call at all by Tim Welke. In the 3rd inning in Minneapolis, Boston 2 and the Twins nothing. Dustin Pedroia a home run. Philadelphia trailing at New York 1-0 at the end of 2.5. Lucas Duda, his 7th of the year for the New York Mets. Swing on a bad ball away, and that's a strikeout. So Mike Leake makes quick work of Troy Tulowitzki, ringing up his 4th punch out. And with 2 down on the inning, we'll go to work on Nolan Arenado. After 2.5 in St. Pete, the Mariners and the Rays are scoreless. San Francisco nothing in the first in Milwaukee. And everything else will be played either later on this afternoon or tonight, so you're up to date. Pitching to Arenado, and a bouncing ball up the middle, and that's going to get into center field for a base hit. The second hit of the inning for Colorado. Second hit of the game for Nolan Arenado, and the inning continues with runners at first and second for left-handed batting Ben Paulson.
There's really no way to shift defensively on a hitter like Arenado. He's going to take what you give him. If you pitch him away, he's going to shoot the ball the other way. If you pitch him in, he's going to pull the ball, and that pitch there, he just takes it right back up the box.
He is a very, very talented young man. Gold Glove winner last year for defensive excellence at third base, and he can swing the bat. Paulson has struck out. He's grounded out. Mike Leake has to pitch shutdown baseball from here on out and hope that this Reds offense, weak though it might be, can figure out a way to get back in it. Swing and a grounder foul. Apparently breaking his back at Ben Paulson. He's going to come back and get another one. The Reds on Radio and Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network welcome Reds on Radio affiliate WBVI FM mix 96.7 from Findlay, Ohio today. Endless things to do all year long. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com.
Burke Badenhop warming in the Reds' bullpen.
At a point in the game now where I would imagine Mike Leake's on a very short leash. Paulson swings, and it's a base hit into shallow right center field. Coming around third and scoring is Gonzalez. Going to third is Arenado. It is a 6-1 ball game in favor of the Colorado Rockies. And here comes Jeff Pico. Brian Price says something to him. He turns and acknowledges whatever Brian had to say to him, and now in a jog heading out toward the mound to talk with Mike Leake.
How about we do a little Ask Marty time?
Why don't you do that?
This is the time where we ask the Hall of Famer to give his thoughts on any subject, baseball or non-baseball, always presented by CBTS. Today's question comes from Eric from TV.
Pardon me?
Eric from TV.
Eric from TV.
That's his Twitter handle.
Okay, Eric.
Eric wants to know, do you like sushi? And if so, what is your favorite roll?
I love sushi, but I'm not as conversant on the product as my wife is.
Did you say conversant?
Yes, I can look at a menu and I can read them individually and figure, yeah, I want that or I don't want that. I'm not a big tuna sushi.
You don't like tuna?
I love tuna. I like tuna fish salad, but there's something about tuna and sushi that doesn't grab me. One strike and nothing to Michael McHenry. I look for the stuff that's crunchy and spicy.
Like the crunchy shrimp roll?
Yes, that's a good one. I used to eat nothing but California roll, and she has gotten me to graduate to something a bit more exotic than that.
Did you say conversant?
Yes, conversant.
We don't use that word where I live at.
That would be in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's correct.
Is that correct? There are some people who do use that word down there. You just don't have it anymore.
That's exactly right.
Here's a very high fly ball. It's a center field. And
I like my food cooked. We'll just leave it at that.
Hamilton makes the catch to end the inning. We'll see if that's the last pitch that Mike Leake throws today. We go to the bottom of inning 5. The Reds now trail 6-1 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds radio network.
Something about a cue.
Take it easy. TV Premium. It is the #1 live streaming sports service. It's celebrating 13 years Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, and more every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Mike Leake may well be done. Tucker Barnhart leading the inning off with Brennan Bosch waiting in the on-deck circle. Reds staring at a 5-run deficit. Batting here in the 5th inning. The pitch to Barnhart had a swing and a fly ball into short center, but right there to play it. Charlie Blackmon, 1 out. Here's Brennan Bosch. So another tough outing for Mike Leake, the 3rd in a row. Leaves down in this game 6-1. Bosch, a left-handed batter. He, of course, chatting with John Fay from the Cincinnati Enquirer in the 2nd inning about what a great spring he had, because he was getting a lot of playing time, and that's a plight of an extra guy. You get those at-bats. You get the daily play in spring training, but when the bell rings, you are sitting, and you don't get a whole lot of opportunity to play, and we've not seen the Brennan Bosch in the season that we saw in spring training. Call strike.
I think it takes a special individual to be able to come off the bench and hit and be ready, not only physically but mentally, and probably more the latter.
Now to strike to Kyle Kendrick, and a swing and a roller to first, played by Paulson. He'll wave the pitcher away and take it himself. 1 out. Make that 2 down in the inning, and now it'll be Billy Hamilton, and Bert Badenhop will be on the mound when the Rockies bat here in the top of the 6th. Fans, stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices. You get it all at Kroger.
You know, Marty, I played with a guy here in Cincinnati that I thought really handled that pinch hit duty well, and that would be Lenny Harris. And he'd always say, I'm looking for the first fastball that I see, and I'm going to try to put it in play, whether it be left, right, or center.
And he did a heck of a job at it. And he is the new 3rd base coach of the Miami Marlins. Welcome back to baseball. Any club that has Lenny Harris on it, whether it in bygone years was a player or now as a coach. Here's a bomb into right center by Hamilton, but caught on the run by Charlie Blackmon. Taking extra bases away from Billy, and the inning is over. The beat rolls on for Kyle Kendrick. We head to the 6th. New pitcher on the mound for the Redlegs, who trail 6-1 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds radio network.
Rockies fans, the 2015 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot is here. Head to MLB.com/vote to choose this year's stars and help send them to the All-Star Game on July 14th in Cincinnati. Vote early and vote often to put your stamp on the Midsummer Classic.
Quite a while. He's only pitched in 7 ball games. This will be his 8th here today.
He'll be getting 8, 9, and 1. DJ LeMahieu, then the pitcher Kendrick, and the leadoff batter Charlie Blackmon. And it has been a while indeed since the 23rd of April, the last time that Parr pitched in a game, and that was against his former employer, Milwaukee. Worked an inning in that game, giving up 2 hits and an unearned run. That was an on-the-road appearance, and now here he is after making 2 rehab appearances for AAA Louisville. When they put Mesoraco on the DL on Tuesday, they announced that Parr was being activated. First pitch in for a call strike. Ground ball sharply hit, but that's Schumacher, and he'll throw him out. We'll step out again for station identification on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. This is Kyle Kendrick, and this is the first time he's been up there in a non-bunting situation. And he fouls off pitch number 1. Our scoreboard stopper brought to you by Geico. Saving people money on more than just car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free quote on motorcycle, renter's insurance, and more. Parr straightens up, and he turns it loose, and Kendrick fouls. Since 1960. 4 pitchers have had 2 different seasons with 19 or more wins while playing for the Reds. Since 1960, 4 pitchers have had 2 different seasons with 19 or more wins while playing for the Reds. Who are they? 0-2 pitch. Fly ball headed to Bruce and right toward the line, and he puts it away. 2 out.
Cueto's one of them. Right?
That would be 1. One down in the inning, 2 down in the inning, and there's Blackmon. He's walked and homered, and into the 4th by hitting into a force play.
So they have to have 2 years of night, so that takes me sure account.
That certainly does.
2 years. Wow.
One of the 4 is a guy who I used to say he wrote a book called How to Win 19 Games. Parenthesis, and not 20. He did it back to back. One ball and no strikes.
Does he come to Reds Fest?
Yeah. In fact, 2 of the 3 come to Reds Fest. Ball strike. 1-1. One of them, God rest his soul, Joe Nuxall used to say, threw on a given day. Ground ball hit to first. Votto will feed it on to Parr for the out that ends the inning. On a given day, he threw harder than anybody he ever saw. Not consistently, but on a given day. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning. The Reds are down 6-1 as Brantley mulls over the answers to this question on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Show that sets the table for your baseball day with the inside take on your favorite players.
He's your power guy.
And a side of the unexpected. MLB Central, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on MLB Network.
On Friday night, a big weekend of baseball, and this Saturday, as part of Super Saturdays, the first 25,000 will receive a Billy Hamilton bobblehead presented by Cincinnati Bell. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. We've had this brain trust during the commercial break of Brantley and Bill Reinberger and Seg Dennison and a man who knows everything, Dave Yiddy Armbruster. You're welcome. Pondering that Geico scoreboard stumper. Since 1964, pitchers have had two different seasons with 19 or more wins while playing for the Reds. Who are they? Schumacher fouls. Brantley said Cueto right out of the chute, which is correct. 19 and 2012 and 20 last year. Then he came up with Reinberger came up with Jim Maloney, which Brantley said he'd have gotten that one.
Maybe.
Here's the pitch. Grounded foul. Maloney, 23 wins in 63 and 20 and 65. And then the man I used to say wrote a book called How to Win 19 Games Back-to-Back but Not 20. Jack Billingham, 19 and 73 and 19 and 74. And last but not least, the first graduate from Little League Baseball to play in the major leagues ever. The first one. Joey J. 21 wins in 61 and 21 wins in 1962.
I would have never gotten that.
Joey J. And it was just a few years ago he was inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Schumacher. Reds down by 5 runs. He swings and lines it to second. Hit it hard, but LeMahieu could play it, and he did. Here's Joey Votto.
What do you think about my Dolph Luque guess?
That was just flat out dumb.
Didn't he throw a couple of no-hitters?
Yeah, but you said it because you liked his name. You could have said
Enrique Romo.
Motorboat Jones.
Motorboat Jones.
Something like that.
You dropped that on me last night.
Here's a high fly ball to right. Could have been Woodpile. Catch made by the right fielder Carlos Gonzalez, and they're 2 out. It's Motorboat Jones. His wife called him the Love Boat.
The Love Boat.
Todd Frazier, he has homered and doubled. He's had 2 of the 3 hits the Reds have collected over 5 2/3 innings off of Kyle Kendrick. Scott's the official lawn care company of the Cincinnati Reds. Feed your lawn like the Reds. Feed it with Scott's. Feed your lawn. Feed it. That's a strike. Kyle Kendrick came into this game with an ERA of 6.58. And he becomes just another pitcher that gets well against this Reds offense. Up and in, 1 ball, 1 strike. Reds were out in order in the 2nd, out in order in the 5th. 2/3 of the way home here in the 6th. High fly ball, infield variety, out in short center to make the catch is DJ LeMahieu, and the inning is over. Jeff will be back with a play-by-play as we roll into round number 7. 6-1 Rocks on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Western and Southern will make a donation to the Barrett Cancer Center. As Western and Southern says, when it comes to fighting cancer, we're all in this one together. Ynoa moves around to the right side. He takes a breaking ball. Strike one from the left-hander Manny Parra. 1 for 3 today is the Rockies left fielder. Parra working quickly, sets at the belt, turns it loose, swing and a miss. A breaking ball in the dirt, and Ynoa missed that one by about 1.5 feet. So Parra quickly ahead, no balls and 2 strikes. Reds trailing 6-1. 3 hits on the board, 1 run for the Reds, 9 hits on the board, 6 for the Rockies as the changeup is fouled at home plate. Again, the Rockies scoring early. A 3-run home run by Arenado back in the first inning. And then a 2-run home run by Charlie Blackmon in the second. Rockies able to add a run in the 5th. That's their 6 runs on the board. Foul straight back, a fastball in on the hands of Ynoa. And he'll hang around for another. Reds' lone run came on 1 swing of the bat by Todd Frazier. A solo shot with 2 down in the first. They have had a big-time amount of difficulty mustering anything since. Parra turns it loose, up and away with a fastball this time. One ball and 2 strikes here to Ynoa, getting his first start of this series. Barnhart sets away the pitch into the dirt, and Ynoa lays off 2 balls and 2 strikes. Gorgeous afternoon here at Great American Ballpark. The rains came in yesterday. Left came in again, but today it has been nothing but sunshine and a cool breeze, and a miss on a fastball down and in by Parra runs the count full. 3 balls and 2 strikes, and this is after Parra jumped ahead 0-2. Reds breaking a 9-game losing streak last night. This ball fouled to the right side, out of play, and Rafael Ynoa putting in at bat against Manny Parra here. You get down no balls and 2 strikes, and you work the count back to 3-2. Doing a pretty good job at the plate. Now another 3-2 from the left-hander Parra. Here he comes, and he pops this one foul again. Off to the right side into the seats and out of play. So if nothing else for Rafael Ynoa, he is running the pitch count of Manny Parra up rapidly. Ynoa back into the box as Barnhart runs through the signs. He sets up right in the heart of the plate. And again, another foul ball back behind home plate. 3rd consecutive 3-2 pitch that Ynoa has fouled off. Turning into almost a double-digit at bat for Rafael Ynoa, and he's the leadoff batter here in the 7th for the Rockies. Parra delivers, swing and a miss, and he struck him out. Chased the high heater up and out of the strike zone, 1 down. So Parra continued to pound the strike zone. Ynoa continued to foul him off, and he just couldn't quite get to that one. Now Carlos Gonzalez will stand in. He's 2 for 3 on the day, a couple of singles. He's scored 2 runs as well. Parra comes to the set, kicks and deals. Popped up left side, Frazier calling for it. Fair territory, and he makes the catch in foul territory as the ball drifts just to the 3rd base, foul to the 3rd baseline, 2 down. So now Troy Tulowitzki stands at the plate. Brian Price is headed to the mound. it appears that we will have a new pitcher to face Troy Tulowitzki, and it looks like it's going to be Bert Badenhop. So the left-hander Parr comes on to get 5 consecutive batters. Bert Badenhop comes on. They'll expect him to get Tulowitzki. We'll be right back here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. Bert Badenhop comes into this 6-1 ball game. Nobody aboard. He's going to face Troy Tulowitzki with 2 down. Badenhop on for the 17th time, an 0-1 record, a 7.88 ERA, 22 hits in 16 innings. Opponents hitting .328 against the veteran right-hander. Tulowitzki stands in. 0 for 2 today. He did walk and score in the 3-run first. Fastball well off the outside corner. 1 ball and no strikes. Tulowitzki ready, and Badenhop delivers. There's a strike that catches the outside edge. 1 ball and 1 strike. Tulowitzki only 2 home runs, but 15 doubles, so the power is there. It's just not showing up in home run territory. And there's a called strike by home plate umpire Tim Welke, and again Tulowitzki unhappy with the decision. You can see the helmet and the eyes look to the sky as he turned away, almost in disgust. 1 ball and 2 strikes now. Tulowitzki back into the batter's box. Badenhop set and delivers. Fastball high. Tulowitzki lays off. 2-2. Badenhop working quickly. Barnhart sets away. Ground ball third base. Frazier's got it. He fires across Dovato, and that is a 3-up, 3-down 7th for the Reds against the Rockies. But the Rockies on top 6-1 as we head to the Reds half of the 7th on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. Jay Bruce will lead off the 7th for the Reds. As the Reds are starting to run out of time, they've got to get some offense together. Got a whole lot of ground to make up. A 6-1 Rocky lead. And a fastball misses down and away. Bruce showed bunt. The Rockies vacate the entire third base position as they move Arenado over in the shortstop spot with Bruce at the plate. Tulowitzki playing over on the right field side of second. The 1-0 pitch from Kendrick, and it's bunted foul off to the third base side into the third base dugout, and that's a strike. It'll be Bruce, Bird, and Kozar due up for the Reds here in the bottom of 7th. Bruce back into the box, waving that bat to and fro. Kendrick staring into McHenry for the sign. The right-hander delivers outside 2-1. Kendrick, for the most part here today, has stayed out of the center of the plate. If you can do that, keep the ball down, you're going to have some success. This ball hit high into the air into left field. And that's going to be Anoa making the catch. Actually, that's Brandon Barnes, one down. So Anoa is out of the ball game. Brandon Barnes is now in left field. He made that play on Bruce. Now Marlon Bird. Bird has flied out to center. He's also popped out to second base here this afternoon. 0 for 2 as Kendrick delivers. Sinker down and in. 1 ball and no strikes. 1 for 3 with a walk last night for Marlon Bird. Scored the Reds only 2 runs in the ball game. But those 2 runs broke a 9-game losing streak. A looping liner to third. It confuses Arenado, but he's still able to make the play. And how he did it, I have no idea. Arenado broke towards the third baseline, planted his feet, came back towards the shortstop, caught it on one hop, and then a perfect throw to first to get Marlon Bird. I don't know how you make a play like that. I guess that's why he has the Gold Glove. Outstanding play at third by Arenado. Now here's Zach Kozart with 2 down. There's a strike right down Broadway. Strike 1 to Kozart. As part of its extra effort program, Liberty Mutual Insurance will make a donation each time the Reds hit a double or a triple. It's called the Extra Effort Program from Liberty Mutual Insurance for Business and their independent agents. Ground ball foul off to the third base side, just past the Reds' third base coach Jim Riggleman. And Kendrick quickly ahead of Kozart. No balls and 2 strikes. Kozart windmills the bat as he readies himself, and Kendrick delivers. Hit hard right at Arenado, and that's a wrong place to hit the ball here today. Arenado makes the play easily. A 3-up, 3-down, 7th, 6-1 Rockies. We head to the 8th and back to Marty Brenneman here on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network. Ryan Price is the only All-Star.
We go to the top of the 8th inning, and Bert Badenhop, who came on to retire Tulowitzki on a ground ball the 3rd to end the 7th, coming back to pitch the 8th. He'll be facing Arenado and Paulson and McHenry. Remains a 6-1 Colorado lead as they head toward what appears to be the win in this deciding game. Stretching the pitch by Badenhop, and it's outside, ball 1. The latest look at the All-Star balloting, latest balloting update as of this very day, May the 27th. Here's a pitch, and that's sharply hit to shortstop. The pick and the throw by Cozart, and there's 1 out. The vote getter at first base by 600,000 votes is Adrian Gonzalez of the Dodgers. Anthony Rizzo is second. And Rizzo of the Cubbies is second. Paul Goldschmidt of the Diamondbacks third. Joey Votto is fifth. Among the catching core, Yadier Molina, not surprising, is the vote getter at that position, followed by Buster Posey, Miguel Montero. 1 strike and nothing on Ben Paulson at second base. Dee Gordon, major league leading hitter from the Marlins, is the top vote getter with Cardinal Colton Wong second and Dodger Howie Kendrick at third. Brandon Phillips is fourth. At the third base position, not surprising, Matt Carpenter of the Cardinals. Here's a fly ball. Going after it is Hamilton and will not get it. That ball will go all the way to the wall in front of the Reds bullpen, and Paulson pulls in standing up with a double. So Carpenter, the pace setter at third base. Chris Bryant of the Cubs is second, a distant 600,000 votes. Todd Frazier is third. At the shortstop position, Johnny Peralta of the Cardinals. That is among the closest of the positions. He's number 1 over Chicago Cubs Starlin Castro, and Castro only 24,000 votes away. Tulowitzki is third. Zach Cozart is fourth. And the top 3 vote getters among outfielders: Bryce Harper of the Nationals, Cardinal Matt Holliday, and Marlins Giancarlo Stanton. Michael McHenry takes the strike.
Cubs getting some votes this year.
Yes, they are. And among the top 15 vote getters in the outfield, the Reds don't have 1. So they are the folks leading at the various positions in the National League as of this very day. 1 ball and 1 strike. McHenry is flied to deep right, grounded to short, and flied out to center. Off the outside corner for a ball. Badenhop, long look in. Now he straightens up and he delivers, and that one is a strike. So McHenry, who we have seen previously with the Pittsburgh Pirates and before that the Boston Red Sox. Back in the box with a 2-2 count. That double by Paulson, by the way, the 10th hit of the game for Colorado. This one lined to right, but a foul ball. When you come see the Reds, be sure you've downloaded Ballpark, the official Great American Ballpark app on your iPhone or Android. Check in each time you come to the game to unlock special offers, exclusive content, and seat upgrades. And even track and purchase your favorite players' at-bat music. Download Ballpark for free from the App Store or Google Play today. And don't forget to turn on your phone's Bluetooth. 6-1 the score. Rockies have the lead. High fly ball, short set left field. Cozart out. Bird is in, and Marlin will make the catch, and they're 2 out. DJ LeMahieu's had a 2-hit day as he stands in. Most of the scoring in this game, in fact, all but one of the 6 runs the Rockies have scored came in the first 2 innings. A 3-run homer by Arenado in the first, and then the 2-run blast by Blackmon in the second. They finally got another run across an RBI base hit by Paulson in the 5th inning. So with 2 out and Paulson aboard, LeMahieu, the recipient of an intentional walk. And the pitcher Kyle Kendrick will be due up with runners at first and second and 2 out. Kendrick today 0 for 3. Badenhop trying to pitch out of trouble. Getting in there for a call strike. Rolling up and down the Ohio River, high-speed boats. They're getting it.
They are getting it.
They sure are.
Hope they don't hit that big tree I saw floating out there earlier.
That'd be a real bummer.
That'd be a high-flying bummer.
First and second, they lead the stretch and the pitch. Chopper back to the box. Badenhop has it. He'll flip on to Votto, and that's the inning. Bottom of the 8th coming up. 6-1 Rockies on the Cincinnati Bell Reds radio network.
Heavy hitters.
All the time.
Amazing arms.
All the time.
Clutch catches.
All the time. On MLB Tonight.
Tonight at 6:30 Eastern.
To the mound for the 8th time on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon in Cincinnati. Reds will be sending up the lower third featuring Tucker Barnhart. Looks like Brian Pena will be batting for Burke Badenhop and then Billy Hamilton. Reds have had only 3 hits the entire day. This offense has been, in a word, brutal, or the lack thereof. Barnhart has bounced out and flied out, and the pitch to him, and it's low and inside, ball 1. That pitch is hit very high in the air, and it is deep into right field and at the wall, and it's out of here. Third home run of the season for Tucker Barnhart. That ball was way up in the air. The only question is, because of its extreme height, whether it had enough to climb over that wall in right. Carlos Gonzalez simply ran out of room, and it's now a 6-2 game. So Barnhart homers. Here's Pena batting for Badenhop. One ball and no strikes. All right, let's revisit the Cincinnati Bell trivia question.
All right.
And that question was, well, 2, who was the first Rockies pitcher to be named to the All-Star team? Was it A, Pedro Estacio? Was it B, Sean Estes? Was it C, Mike Hampton? You said
A for Estacio.
And let me add that I wholeheartedly endorse that answer. You hear me?
Let's see if we're any good.
Fly ball shallow right, but it'll hang up for the second baseman to go get it in foul territory. DJ LeMahieu. The answer is Mike Hampton.
I'm scuffling.
I'm telling you, we stink.
Oh my goodness. I can't even remember the last time I got one right.
I am automatically depressed, or as depressed as I'm capable of being. I thought that was a lead pipe cinch. When you said A, I rejoiced inside. I was so convinced you were right.
Well, evidently, it's incorrect.
It's Billy Hamilton. And he takes a strike.
Hampton would have been my third choice.
In 2001, starting pitcher Mike Hampton became the first Rockies pitcher named to an All-Star team. Overall, 6 different Rocky hurlers have been All-Stars. Mike Hampton, who was some kind of good until he got to Colorado. Apparently he was good for 1 year with the Rocks.
Or at least 1/2 of a year.
Yeah. 1-1 on Hamilton. Ball 2. How about 69 pitches right now for Kyle Kendrick? I mean,
amazing.
69 pitches. Here's number 70. And that is lined into left center field, and it'll drop for a hit. Billy Hamilton has his second hit. And I would think that Kyle Kendrick has to be thinking about a possible complete game, given the low pitch count. In his major league career, he's had a grand total of 4 of them. Most recently when he had a couple while with the Phillies in 2013. Skip Schumacher 0 for 3. Hamilton back on a quick throw.
Evidently, Walt Weiss is not taking a whole lot of chances. He's got Boone Logan throwing in their bullpen.
Here's the stretch. Pitching and taken for a ball by Schumacher. Time call now as catcher McHenry goes to the mound. Catcher back behind the plate, and Schumacher, who's grounded to short, flying to left and lined to second. Back with the runner leading Hamilton at first base. He earlier stole a base. Billy did back in the 3rd inning. That's high. 2 balls and no strikes. He had been the pace setter in the stolen base department all from the beginning of the season. And just recently relinquished that to Miami second baseman D. Gordon, and Billy has tied him now for the stolen base lead with 18. That's upstairs, ball 3. Gordon with 18, Hamilton with 18, Placido Polanco, or rather Gregory Polanco with the Pittsburgh Pirates third with 12. And there's a strike, 3-1. Joey Votto coming up next. Reds trailing by 4 after the leadoff home run here in the 8th inning by Tucker Barnhart. And there's a walk, and the Reds have 2 on, and we'll see how much rope Walt Weiss is going to give Kyle Kendrick at this late stage of the afternoon. He is standing at the bottom of the stairwell. 1 step up, 2, here he comes. That's going to be it for Kendrick. Walt Weiss has already signaled that he wants the left-hander Boone Logan out of the bullpen to face Joey Votto. Excellent day's work by Kyle Kendrick. And now we'll rely on that Colorado bullpen to try and maintain the lead. The left-hander entering stage right, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Logan coming out of the Rockies bullpen. Logan on the year. This will be his 19th appearance. An ERA above 5 at 5.17. 15 2/3 innings. He has struck out 21 and allowed 18 hits.
Joey Votto has bounced to first and to short, and he's fly to right. Votto has now gone almost an unbelievable 95 at-bats without a home run. He is 1 day shy of 1 month since he homered against Milwaukee's Kyle Loesch on the 28th of April. Truly mystifying the kind of start this guy has had after a blistering April. I mean, dead south in May. Left-hander against left-hand batter, and the pitch. And it's too low, ball 1. One ball and no strikes with runners at first and second. 1 out in the inning. Votto taking at the knees from the former New York Yankee Boone Logan. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Logan almost has that crossfire delivery. Looks like he's stepping towards Todd Frazier in the red zone deck circle and then throwing back towards the plate.
Hamilton at second, Schumacher at first. A hit and a walk get him there. Votto taking in the dirt. Nice stop by McHenry. 2-1. The Reds tried to do something late here and get back in this game. They got a leadoff double back in the 4th inning. The last time that they threatened, that came from Todd Frazier, and they could not move him off the second base bag. That inning was pretty much a microcosm of the way this season has gone for this team offensively. A grounder foul by Votto.
Are you surprised that they give Votto that much room on the left side of the infield?
Without a doubt.
I mean, Boone Logan is pitching him dead away, and Tulowitzki is playing a good 4 or 5 steps on the right field side of second. The entire shortstop position is vacated.
It's amazing how much room there is on the left side of the infield. Logan with a count of 2-2 on Votto. And back to the plate he comes after the check of the runners. Votto taking ball 3.
The reason I say that is Votto is not a pull hitter. He is a guy that has been known for driving the ball the other way.
Boone Logan has gone the distance now on Joey Votto. He's got Todd Frazier next. Rafael Betancourt is getting ready in the bullpen. But of course, after Frazier, you've got another left-handed batter in Marlon Byrd. But if he loses Votto, you almost have to bring the right-hander in to face Frazier. And he's loaded them up, missing with a breaking ball, and they are full now. This is when a manager's caught between a rock and a hard place. You got a right-hand batter with the power to tie this game up, and he represents a tie and run. But you got a guy hitting behind him who bats him left-handed, who has been on something of a roll of late. And speaking of rolls, Walt Weiss is going to roll the dice and leave Boone Logan in to face Todd Frazier. Frazier's hit a home run. He has doubled. He's 2 for 3. Here's a pitch off the plate outside. Ball 1. Barnhart led the inning off with a home run. Then Brian Pena popped out. Then came the single by Hamilton. The walk to Schumacher. It was good by Kendrick and hello Logan, and he promptly walks Joey Votto to fill him up. And Frazier taking, and it's 2 balls and no strikes. He's got his manager pacing now in the Colorado dugout. Straightaway outfield, infield deep, and double play depth. Frazier could really make this thing interesting with something here. And he takes a strike. Sweeping breaking ball. Run the count to 2-1.
2-0 curve ball. Frazier was thinking grand slam. He had to stop his swing right in mid stride.
So a 2-1 count on the Reds' third baseman. Rockies 6, Reds 2. Big threat here in the 8th. Frazier swings and fouls, and it's 2-2. Frazier batting only .200 with runners in scoring position. That's one of the better batting averages on this team in situations like this. The best among the regulars. Joey Votto, at least today, in the lineup at .270. Nobody even remotely close to that. Now the 2-2, and Frazier swings and pops it up behind the plate. Coming back is McHenry, and he does not have a play. It's over the screen and bouncing around down in what is referred to as a diamond seats here at Great American Ballpark. Getting this ballpark all spruced up for the All-Star game that they will host here in July. And a lot of changes already made and more changes still to come. Logan taking a lot of time now between pitches, realizing the magnitude of the situation that he finds himself in. 2-2 pitch. Ball 3 in the dirt. Nice stop by McHenry. So he's faced 2 batters. He went 3-2 on Votto. He walked him. He's 3-2 now on Frazier. And Walt Weiss, having committed to pitching to Todd Frazier, has no choice now, but after we find out what Frazier does, to leave him in to work to Jay Bruce.
I think Walt Weiss has walked a mile in a span of
sure
about
has.
3 feet in that dugout.
He punched Boone Logan's ticket on a day in which Logan, at least up to this point, was not equal to the task, although he could get real quick with an out here. And now the payoff pitch on the way. Frazier taking ball 4, and he forces in a run to make it 6-3.
We talk about it so many times. Walks out of the bullpen will absolutely kill you. The first walk of this inning came from Kyle Kendrick, but the last 2 have come from the left-handed reliever Boone Logan.
Well, the ex-Red Steve Foster, he's a pitching coach, and he's on his way out to the mound to try and figure out something that'll help Boone Logan get out of this mess. Second RBI of the day for Frazier, running his season's total at 28. Club leader in that department, and the last 3 Reds batters have had walks. The last batter that Kendrick faced was Skip Schumacher. He walked him, and then Logan comes in and promptly walks Votto to load him up, and Frazier to force in a run. They have taken the wind out of the sails of Jay Bruce through his first 3 at-bats. Has struck out, fouled to third, and flied to left. Shift around with 3 on the right side of the infield for Bruce. And the pitch to him is way inside, ball 1.
I've got to imagine at this point Rafael Betancourt is ready in the Rockies bullpen.
I would say so. 1 ball, no strike pitch. Swung on and popped in the air, shallow left field. That ball is gonna drop. Single RBI in that gray area, that never land. Too close in for the left fielder Barnes to come in and play. Too far out for the shortstop Tulowitzki to go out and get it. So a flare by Bruce, and the Reds draw still another run closer at 6-4. Walt Weiss, for the second time now, has to leave the dugout on the third base side and go out and make a pitching change. The bases remain loaded. It'll be Rafael Betancourt working to Marlon Byrd when we return in just a moment.
coming out of the Rockies bullpen. And he'll be looking for one thing, and that's a double play ball. He'll be facing Marlon Byrd. Betancourt, 19th appearance, 2-1 on the year with a 3.12 ERA. This is a guy that does not walk people. He's only walked 2 batters in his 17 1/3 innings pitched. So if you're Marlon Byrd, you know you're going to get something to hit.
I tell you, this guy's been a very durable relief pitcher. When he's been healthy, years he has spent coming out of that bullpen, he has done an excellent job, and now being called on to try and do something here that will preserve whatever the lead ends up being, if in fact it is. Byrd obviously trying to at the least tie this game with a hit. So close the book on Kendrick. 7 1/3, 5 hits, 4 runs, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. Marlon Byrd swinging and fouling, jumping on that first pitch and fouling it off. He is the 8th man to bat in what has so far been a 3-run inning, but the Reds are still 2 runs short. And Tony Cingrani, a left-hander, and Aroldis Chapman, a left-hand, both 2 left-handers warming up in the Reds bullpen at the moment. Byrd taking low. 1 ball, 1 strike. Otto at third, Frazier at second, Bruce at first. Only 1 out in the inning.
Kyle Kendrick has got to be wondering in that third base dugout what the heck happened.
No kidding. Fouled away. Ball and 2 strikes. Betancourt, a new baseball in hand. Tugs at the bill of the cap. Once, twice, stands on the pitching rubber. Henry running through the signs and the crouch behind the plate. Runners lead at every base. And the pitch is on the way. High fly ball. Right field. Moving over is Gonzalez in fair ground, and nobody will be able to move an inch. So Byrd not able to get it done on a fly ball to right. And now it's going to be Zach Cozart with 2 out. He is 0 for 3 today. He is 1 for his last 17 and 2 for his last 34. And the man who began this inning with a home run to right waits on deck, and Tucker Barnhart. Now, while Boone Logan couldn't get anybody out, Rafael Betancourt comes on to get the first man he faces on a fly ball to short right. Everybody having to stay where they are. Cozart swings, and that's going to end the inning. Fly ball hit to left, and the side retired. We go to the top of the ninth. Colorado 6, the Reds 4 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Reds will go to the bullpen. It will be left-hander Tony Cingrani. Cingrani coming on for the 16th time. Cingrani, 17 1/3 innings. He's only allowed 10 hits. The problem that Cingrani creates is normally for himself. He's walked 13 batters in his 17 1/3 innings. If he can stay away from that, more times than not, he puts zeros on the board.
He'll be working to the top third of the batting order with Charlie Blackmon to lead things off. He has been a major factor in this Colorado now 2-run lead with a 2-run homer back in the second inning. Close the books on some folks. Manny Parr an inning and 2/3 and threw the ball exceptionally well. He had a strikeout. Burke Badenhop an inning and a third with 1 hit allowed and an intentional walk, and now it's Tony Cingrani in the ninth. To the left-handed batting Blackmon, it's in for a call strike. Foul back 0-2. Would imagine we're going to see John Axford in the ninth inning, and the Reds would be slated to send up Tucker Barnhart, a pinch hitter for the pitcher, and then Billy Hamilton. Way high with that fastball, a ball and 2 strikes. Nice comeback. The Reds scored 3 times, but quite honestly, when you've scored 3 and you got the bases loaded with 1 out, those 3 runs are simply not good enough. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Checked his swing in time on a high fastball. Cingrani letting it fly, and Blackmon takes ball 3. Dynegy Energy Services invites Reds fans to sign up for the Reds Fan Energy Plan. The special plan includes an electric rate that's fixed to protect your budget from unexpected increases and 4 free Reds tickets to a game of your choice. Sign up at Duke Energy Ohio or DynagyOhio.com/GoReds. Throws him a heater and strikes him out swinging. Blackmon back to the dugout, bat in hand, and the hitter will be Brandon Barnes, heading the plate for his first plate appearance.
Chase that fastball up and out of the strike zone. You do that against Cingrani, you're not going to do a whole lot, because he can elevate it with the best of them.
Now the right-handed batting Barnes, and a swing, and he didn't get it. Only appearing in his 9th game since being brought up, but made the most of the opportunity. A .450 batting average with 3 runs knocked in. Another swing and a miss. Cingrani waiting on Barnes to get back in the box. He's trying to regroup after flailing aimlessly at 2 fastballs. The pitch and a foul ball. Just got a piece of that to foul it straight back. Reds will be off tomorrow. We look forward to seeing a lot of you folks out at the Joe Nuxall Scholarship Foundation Golf Tournament at the Elks. One of the great events during the spring and summer months in a city that has a whole boatload of such events. Just inside, a ball, 2 strikes. Cingrani straightens up, pours it playward, fouled out of play by Barnes, holding at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Starting pitchers are the pitchers of record. If their lead holds up, Kendrick would raise his record to 2-6, and Leake would slip to 2-4. And they will go back to the drawing board as far as Mike Leake is concerned and try and figure out what the heck is going on. Fouled again. No baseball tomorrow, but the Reds will be back at it on Friday night against the Washington Nationals. Reds will send Anthony DeSclafani to the mound, coming off of a brilliant performance in a no decision outing against the Indians earlier this week. And it will be Steven Strasburg. That pitch is down and in, and the count is 3 balls and 2 strikes. DeSclafani against Strasburg Friday night. Raisel Iglesias will get left-hander Gia Gonzalez on Saturday. It'll be a 4-10 game, and the Reds have yet to announce a starter. As we said earlier, well, could be Johnny Cueto. Strikeout swinging on a pitch in against Tanner Roark. So 2 up, 2 down, both via the strikeout route, and here is Carlos Gonzalez. $23,917 turnout for today's Titanic struggle. 23,917. The pitch swung on and bounced to second. Schumacher delivers to Votto, and Cingrani knocks him off in order. Now we'll find out if the Reds have another big inning left in them as we go to the bottom of the ninth. They are down 6-4 on the Cincinnati Bell Reds Radio Network.
Out of the Rockies bullpen. 13th appearance for Axford. He's got 7 saves. He's finished 8 ball games. A 0.82 ERA for the right-hander. Thrown the ball awfully well for Walt Weiss in this role.
That he has. He has to some extent resurrected a career that appeared to be dead in the water, at least based on what he's done so far in the first almost 2 months of the season. He was equal to the task in the opening game on Tuesday night. He pitched the 9th inning of a 5-4 Rockies win to save it for Rafael Betancourt.
Yeah, I noticed in that ball game, Marty, he has his front shoulders over that front foot a little bit more than what we saw with both the Brewers and when he went to the Cardinals. He was standing up straight, kind of arching his back a little bit. Now he's a little bit more over himself, keeping the ball down a heck of a lot better.
Tucker Barnhart led off the 8th with a home run to right. He starts off the 9th inning, and he checks his swing. It's 1 ball and no strikes. Brandon Phillips has emerged from the dugout, ostensibly to pinch hit for Tony Cingrani. Ball 2, 2 balls and no strikes. And a swing and a fly ball into right center field, and it's caught on the run by Carlos Gonzalez. He got it easy, 1 out. Now Brandon Phillips, non-starter last night and obviously not in the lineup today. He's at turf toe. They're trying to give a little bit extra rest to, and it was a no-brainer, what with an off day tomorrow. In effect, giving Brandon 3 days off, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in the hope that it'll be better to the point where they can get him back in the lineup in the opener against Strasburg and the Nationals on Friday night. Axford bringing it on up there. And Phillips takes ball 1. Starter Kyle Kendrick went 7 1/3 innings. The Reds' Mike Leake went 5. And the Reds' bullpen, Parra, Baden, Hops, and Groney, have done an excellent job today. Swing and a miss. 1 ball, 1 strike. Brandon away, but back in. 1-1 on the Reds pinch hitter, the third such off the bench over the course of this afternoon, and that's down and away, ball 2. Bosch pinch hit for Leake in the 5th. He bounced to 3rd. Pena pinch hit in the 8th. He popped out to 2nd, and now it's Phillips in the 9th with 1 out. Rockies have a 6-4 lead, trying to win the series, and they're 2 outs away from doing it. High and tight, ball 3. Brandon, a .299 batter, 2 homers and 18 RBIs. He's had a fine year up to this point. And he fouls it back to run the count full.
Not a whole lot of secret with what Axford's coming with here. Been pumping that fastball in and away.
Retired Barnhart routinely, but Phillips proving to be a tough out. And in fact, that's the way it turns out. He's trying to get on base here. 3-2 pitch on the way. And he pops it foul, and that ball will drift out of play over at the railing. But watching the ball settle well back in the seats is first baseman Ben Paulson. Billy Hamilton due up next. Six runs, 10 hits for the Rockies. 4 runs, 7 hits. Or 6 hits, I should say, for the Reds. Payoff pitch one more time. Axford to Phillips. Foul back. They'll do it again. Bright sunshine continuing to be down on the grass here at Great American Ballpark. They're calling for thunderstorms, but probably not until very late afternoon or early evening in and around the city of Cincinnati. Struck him out swinging. Billy Hamilton will bat with 2 out. Couple of hits today for the Red Speedster. He has scored a run. He has stolen his 18th base to move into a tie for first with D. Gordon of the Miami Marlins. Phillips with 18 steals in 21 attempts. Max returns it loose. Ground ball to second. Flip on to first, and that's that. After breaking a 9-game losing streak last night, the Reds turn around and lose now for the 10th time in the last 11 games. They fall to the Rockies in this series windup here at Great American Ballpark today, 6-4. We'll be back in a moment.